Hey y'all, I'm Sam, and welcome back to my Southern Rustic kitchen, and welcome if you are new. I've got some delicious dinners planned for y'all this week, so let's head on into the kitchen and let's make some delicious meals. So I'm going to start this week out with making some beef and broccoli. I love beef and broccoli. It's very easy to make. So I'm just going to start out by marinating my beef. I've got some thinly sliced beef here in my bowl, and to this I'm going to add some soy sauce, some Chinese cooking wine, cornstarch, baking soda, salt, and some avocado oil. Now you can use vegetable oil or any kind of neutral oil that you have on hand. You're going to combine this well and you're going to set this aside and let it marinate while you make your sauce. Alright, so I've got the beef sitting here and it's just going to sit here while we make our sauce. So to this bowl here, we're going to add all of our ingredients for our sauce. I'm going to add oyster sauce, soy sauce, dark soy sauce, water, cornstarch, sugar, and some pepper to this bowl. And I'm going to whisk this together until everything is nice and combined. And we're going to also set this to the side while we heat up our pan. Alright, so I've got a large skillet here over medium-low heat. I'm using cast iron, but you can use any kind of large skillet that you have on hand, or you can use a wok. You're just going to let your pan get hot over medium-low heat. You're going to add in a little bit of oil, some neutral oil. I'm using avocado oil, and you're going to cook your beef in batches. You're going to cook it about 3 to 4 minutes, just until it's completely cooked through and it's got a nice golden brown color to it. And then you're just going to take that out and put that in a plate and set it aside. Now that all of the beef is cooked through and I've got it in a plate setting to the side, I'm going to add a little bit more oil to my pan, and I'm going to add in about 1 to 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to let that cook for about 30 seconds just until it's fragrant. And then I'm going to add in my sauce. I'm going to whisk that together, scraping up any of the bits that's stuck on the bottom of the pan, and then I'm going to let it cook and whisk it until it is completely thickened. Alright, now that the sauce has thickened, I'm going to go ahead and add in my broccoli. Now if you're using fresh broccoli, you're going to want to blanch that for just a couple of minutes until it's kind of bright green, and then you're going to shock it in some ice cold water to stop it from cooking. But I'm using frozen thawed broccoli. It's just easier for me. I always have it on hand. You're going to add that in as well as your cooked beef, and then you're just going to toss that together in that sauce. Make sure it's all nice and coated in that sauce, and you're pretty much good to go. I like to serve this over rice, but you can serve this however you want. Alright, here is my plate. I just have the beef and broccoli here. Like I said, I serve it with rice, but you can serve it however you want. You can top this with the sesame seeds like I have here, or you can do some green onions on top. You can also serve this with a side of kimchi. It's really good, but yeah, that's what we have for dinner tonight. Alright, it is the next day and I'm going to make some chicken tenders and oven fries for dinner tonight. But I'm going to start out by marinating the chicken tenders first, so that way they get nice and tender when we go to cook them. So to my bowl here, I'm going to add some buttermilk, baking soda, salt, pepper, and a little bit of seasoned salt, and kind of mix that together. Add the chicken tenders in there and get it nice and coated in that. And what the baking soda and the buttermilk is going to do is tenderize that meat and allow those seasonings to get into the chicken and season the chicken. Once you get the chicken tenders all nice and coated in that buttermilk mixture, you're just going to cover this with some plastic wrap and you're going to let this marinate. Now you can do this overnight if you want to, so that way they're nice and marinated for the next day. But I usually let mine go for about an hour to 2 hours before I am ready to cook it. Alright, so the chicken has been marinating for about an hour at this point. So we're going to go ahead and work on our potatoes. I've got a couple of potatoes here. Well, I've got about 5 potatoes here actually. I'm going to cut these up into wedges and I'm going to place them on a sheet tray that has been lined. You can line it with parchment paper or a silicone mat. Either one will work just fine. And once I get them all cut into wedges, we're going to season them up. Before I start in on the seasoning part of this, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 425 degrees. Then we're going to season these up. I'm going to add some olive oil, but you can use whatever kind of oil you have on hand. It will work just fine. I'm also going to add some salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and some Cajun seasoning to this. But you can use whatever kind of seasoning is your favorite. I'm just going to toss that together, and you're going to bake this at 425 degrees for about 20 minutes. You're going to take it out of the oven and then you are going to flip them over and you're going to put them back in the oven for another 20 to 25 minutes until they are nice and golden brown and they are completely cooked through. the potatoes are in the oven and they are baking up. So we're going to go ahead and start on the flour coating for the chicken tenders, as well as the honey mustard sauce. So to this bowl here, I'm just going to add some flour and whole wheat flour. You can do just all-purpose flour. It will work just fine for this, as well as some salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, Cajun or Creole seasoning, and a little bit of seasoning salt. And you're just going to mix that together until it's well combined, and then you're going to set that aside. Now I'm just going to make the honey mustard sauce. This is my favorite way of making honey mustard sauce, but if you have a different way of making it, by all means go ahead and do that. Or you can buy the prepared kind. It will work just fine and it will be absolutely delicious. But to a bowl here, I'm going to add a half of a cup of mayo, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and about a quarter of a cup of honey. I'm going to mix that really well, make sure everything is nice and combined. I'm going to cover this with a lid, or you can do plastic wrap, and I'm going to put this in the refrigerator until dinner is ready and you have a delicious dipping sauce for your chicken tenders and your french fries. Moving on to the chicken, we have the coating here, the seasoned coating, as well as the marinated chicken tenders. All you're going to do is you're going to take the chicken tenders and dip them in the flour. You can do 1 coating or 2. If you're going to do a double coating, then I suggest making a double batch of the marinade and just dipping it twice into the marinade and twice into the flour before you fry it. Now we are ready to fry the chicken. I have about 1 inch of vegetable oil here in a large skillet over medium-low heat. I have it over medium-low heat because I don't want the outside to cook faster than the inside of the chicken. So you're just going to carefully place the chicken tenders in the oil. You're just going to cook these for about 3 to 4 minutes per side until they are nice and golden brown and they are completely cooked through. And then you're just going to remove them to either a wire rack or a paper towel lined plate to drain off any of the extra oil or grease that are on the chicken tenders. Alright, so here's my plate. I have some of the chicken tenders here, as well as the oven fries and some of that delicious honey mustard sauce. But you guys, this was so easy and it was so good. Tonight I wanted something a little bit lighter, so I'm going to make my BLT pasta. It is so easy and so good. We're going to start out by bringing a large pot of water to a boil on the stove. Once it comes to a boil, you're going to add in a handful of salt. In the meantime, we're going to make the sauce. We're going to start out by adding some bacon to a pan that's over medium-low heat, and you're going to cook that until the bacon is crispy, or until however you like your bacon. You're going to take that out and put that on a paper towel lined plate to drain off any excess grease. Once you have removed your bacon from the pan, you're going to want to remove any of the extra bacon fat. I just put mine in a heat safe bowl and set it to the side because I always save my bacon grease, but you can discard it if you want. You're going to leave just a little bit of that bacon fat in the pan. You're going to add in your onions along with a little bit of salt and pepper, and you're going to cook those until they are nice and tender and translucent. Once the onions are nice and tender and translucent, you're going to want to add in your garlic. I like to grate mine in, but you can do minced garlic. You're going to let that cook for about 30 seconds before you add in your tomatoes. Once you add in your tomatoes, you're going to let that cook for about 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes is up, you're going to add in some sugar, salt, pepper, and you're going to mix that together until it's nice and combined. You're going to let that cook for about 20 to 30 seconds. Add in your red pepper flakes and your thyme as well. Give that a stir, add in your broth, stir it again, and you're going to let that cook while you cook your spaghetti. Now is the time you're going to add your spaghetti into your salted boiling water and let that start to cook up until it's al dente. In the meantime, your sauce is going to cook for about 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes is up, you're going to go in and you're going to take your spoon and you're going to smash those tomatoes up with the back of the spoon before adding in your cooked pasta. When you get your cooked pasta in there, you're going to top that with some spinach. I do about 2 to 3 cups of spinach, and I'm also going to add the bacon back in, and I'm going to toss that up until it's nice and combined, and then you are ready to serve this. And let me tell you, this is absolutely delicious.
The tough times we survived, the more it makes me smile. If nothing's broken us, yeah, nothing ever will, 'cause dreams are hard to kill. And I know somewhere's a place where we can build our memories. Somewhere, just hold on tight, it'll be alright. Show me the way.
Alright, so here is my bowl of pasta. This is one of my favorite go-to pastas. It's so easy and it's delicious and it's not a lot of work. And you can top this with some Parmesan cheese for a little bit of added flavor. You can add some more red pepper flakes on top if you want a little extra kick of heat. But it's not really spicy. It's just got a nice flavor to it, and it is so good. Today I am starting out by making some cream horns. These take a little bit longer because they have to cool, but I'm also going to be making some chicken pot pie for dinner. So right here I have 1 package of puff pastry. You can cut this recipe in half if you don't want to make as many as I'm making, but I like to freeze some of these, so I'm just going to make the whole entire recipe. So I've got my puff pastry here, and I'm just rolling out the creases just to keep them from breaking when they get baked in the oven. And then after I get those kind of rolled out, I'm going to cut these into 3/4 inch wide strips. And I'm also going to spray the molds with some oil spray just to keep them from sticking when they're baking. I will leave these molds linked in the description box below if you want to check them out. Now I'm just going to take those strips and I'm going to roll those out just to make them a little bit longer so they fit around the entire mold. And then I'm going to start at the tip of the mold, working my way around to the top of the mold. And once I get to the end, I'm going to press the end of the puff pastry onto itself and kind of roll it on the cutting board here, just to kind of seal those edges together so that way they don't come apart when I'm baking them in the oven. Once you get all of the puff pastry onto the molds, now you might have to do this in batches, but it's fine. I have to do this as well because I don't have that many molds, so I have to do it in 2 batches. So once you get them all in the molds, you are going to bake these at 400 degrees between 12 to 15 minutes until they are nice and golden brown. You're going to remove them from the oven. You're going to let them cool 10 minutes or so, just until the molds are warm enough to the touch so that you can carefully remove the molds from the puff pastry. Then you're going to just put them on a wire rack to cool completely while you cook the other batch of the puff pastry. While the puff pastry is in the oven baking, we're going to go ahead and work on the cream filling that goes in the center of the puff pastry. So we're going to start out by blending some vegetable shortening and some butter together in a bowl until it's creamy and light. And then you're going to add in your powdered sugar, and you're going to mix that until it is all combined. It might be a little crumbly, but that's okay. It will all come together in the end. Once you have all of your powdered sugar blended in with the vegetable shortening and the butter mixture, you can add in your vanilla, cream, and salt. Then you're just going to blend this again until it's light and fluffy. You're going to add half of this mixture into a pastry bag fitted with either a star tip or a round tip, or you can just use a Ziploc bag with the corner snipped off. And once your puff pastry is cooled completely, you can fill these up till about a 1/4 inch outside of the puff pastry. Once you get the cream horns all filled up, you can separate these into 2 batches. You can freeze one batch. They'll last about 3 months in the freezer, and you can store the other half in the refrigerator in an airtight container. They'll last about 2 weeks. That is typically what I do because it makes a lot. So I typically freeze half and eat the other half within the 2-week time period. Now it is dinner time, and we are going to make our chicken pot pie. This is my easy chicken pot pie with tater tot topping. It's so good. I've made it for many years, especially when my children were all about the tater tots when they were younger. So we're going to start off by adding some butter to a large skillet over medium-low heat. We're going to add in some diced onions and potatoes, salt and pepper, and we're going to cook those down until the onions are tender and translucent, about 6 to 8 minutes.
As long as I can be here with you, everything's alright. I'll be right here. I swear that I'll stay here with you. Hold me closer. I wanna stay here with you. All that we have is each other now. I promise.
Now that the onions are nice and tender, I'm going to go ahead and add in some garlic, and I'm going to let that cook for about 30 seconds or so, just until that garlic is nice and fragrant. And then I'm going to add in some frozen thawed mixed vegetables and some thyme, and I'm going to mix that around and let that cook for about 1 to 2 minutes.
Giving you my love.
Now I'm just going to add in my flour, and I'm going to stir this up and make sure it's nice and combined, and I'm going to let this cook for about 2 to 3 minutes just to cook out that raw flour taste. Once that's all nice and cooked down, I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken broth and my milk, add a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm going to stir that around and let that cook for about 10 minutes. Now that that has cooked for about 10 minutes and it's starting to thicken up, I'm going to go ahead and add in my cubed chicken. And I'm going to stir this around, make sure it's nice and combined and mixed well. And I'm going to let this cook for another 10 to 12 minutes just so that chicken has a head start on cooking. After the 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and layer on my tater tots on the top, season that with salt and pepper. I'm going to bake this at 425 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes, just until that chicken is cooked through and the top of the tater tots are nice and golden brown. And then this is ready for dinner. Alright y'all, here is my plate. I just have the chicken pot pie here, and I paired it with a salad, and I just topped it with ranch dressing today just because my daughter had it out for her, so I just used that. But I absolutely adore chicken pot pie. I think it's one of my all-time favorite meals. But yeah, this is what we had for dinner tonight. It is Friday night and I am making some pizza. I am making a fig and prosciutto pizza with arugula. You guys, this was so delicious. This will definitely be in our pizza night rotation. So here I just have some pizza dough. You can do homemade or store-bought. Both will work just fine. So I'm going to put this on a floured piece of parchment paper, and I'm just going to roll this out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. Once I get that pizza dough all rolled out, I am going to add on some olive oil and get that brushed all over the top. You can add some salt and pepper here if you want to, but I'm going to add that later on. Once I get that all brushed on to the pizza dough, I'm going to add some fig jam or fig preserves, and I'm going to evenly spread that out over the pizza, leaving about a 1-inch border. Once I get the fig preserves spread over the top of the pizza, I'm going to add on some figs. You can do fresh figs or dried figs. I'm using dried figs because fresh figs, to find them right now, is very, very hard to do. So I'm just using dried figs. So I'm going to add those all over the top of the pizza. Once I get those on the top, I'm going to tear up a little bit of mozzarella and sprinkle that over the top. Then I'm going to transfer this entire thing, parchment paper and all, to a 500-degree oven. And I've got my pizza pan in there, and it is nice and popping hot. Once I get that in there, I'm going to let this cook for about 10 to 12 minutes, just until that pizza dough is nice and golden brown and that cheese is nice and melted. Now that the pizza is cooked and out of the oven, while the other pizza bakes, I'm going to top this pizza with some arugula, prosciutto, and some grated Parmesan cheese, and then I'm going to cut it into wedges, and it is ready to serve. Here is the pizza right before I cut this into some wedges and served it for dinner, and this, you guys, was absolutely delicious. I highly recommend trying a fig and prosciutto pizza. It's so good. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, be part of the family here at the Southern Rustic. I'd love to have you. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.